Salazar used to work at Los Alamos, had the highest clearance that you can get there. And he worked for 3 or 4 months up there at Area 51.
Something crazy just happened at Area 51 recently. Explorers there found super strong proof that ancient aliens have been hanging out on Earth for a long time now. Apparently, a flying saucer and 4 alien dudes showed up during a nuclear test, totally freaking out the government. They've been hiding these space visitors at that super secret place, Groom Lake, and trying to figure out what's going on. People who know a lot about this stuff think Area 51 might be the start of the world ending. So why do so many experts think Area 51 might be ground zero for what could be the end of the world? Let's dive into this story and more. The secrets of Area 51. Area 51 is a super secret military spot tucked away at Groom Lake in southern Nevada. People usually call it Homey Airport or Groom Lake, but it's really part of the Nevada Test and Training Range, run by the Edwards Air Force Base in California. Everyone's heard of Area 51 because it's so hush-hush, and there are a bunch of crazy stories about it, like aliens and stuff. But really, it's just a place where they test out super cool planes and weapons. You can't go there, it's guarded super tight, and they're always watching. For a long time, they've been trying out high-flying planes like the U-2 and other super advanced stuff. Everything was normal until the government called together a bunch of scientists for a weird job. These weren't army people or guards, just regular scientists. They weren't looking at what happened after the nuke went off, but at something flying that no one could explain. It was clear the government wanted to know all about this thing that showed up during their nuclear test. And guess what? There were 4 freaky-looking things with the flying object, not humans at all. Everyone was super confused, but no one knew what was going on. People say they quickly moved these weird beings and the flying thing to Groom Lake, that super secret place. This next part is very interesting. The engineers on the scene were tasked with checking out this weird thing they found. They walked around the place, looking at everything and taking notes, but they didn't get told much. It seemed like their job was just to gather information, and the important stuff was kept secret for people with special clearance. What happened in Kingman was strange and interesting. It showed how the government likes to control what people know about mysterious things in the sky. Even though the engineers were really smart and knew their stuff, they were just like spectators watching something they weren't allowed to be part of. This whole thing made people talk even more about the government hiding things, and what these objects really are. The alien tales. It's not just about stuff, you know? Some people really think Area 51 was like a prison for an alien that was caught back in 1953, after that UFO crash in Kingman. They say this space creature lived in a super secret part of the base, which is pretty creepy if you ask me. Whether it's true or not, it makes Area 51 sound like a place hidden not just by the desert, but also by a big cover-up. With all the satellites and stuff these days, how can a place be so secret? Maybe the alien stories are just a distraction from something else the government's up to, or maybe it's all just a crazy idea to keep us busy while they work on other top-secret stuff. Then there's this guy, Captain Bill Uhouse. He used to fly planes for the Navy, and then tested planes for the Air Force. In the middle of the 1960s, he was sent to Area 51. He says he looked at that spaceship from Kingman up close. Sounds like something out of a movie, right? Imagine an alien named J-Rod hanging out with government people, trying to figure out alien tech. And Uhouse? Well, he's like a real-life conspiracy theory guy saying he saw alien stuff with his own eyes. But hey, there's not a whole lot of proof to back up these wild claims. If you're into stories about flying saucers and secret government stuff, this one's a real page-turner. But if you're more of a show-me-the-evidence kind of person, this tale might feel more like a good story than something that really happened. No matter what you think, though, this story definitely gets people talking. It's like adding another piece to the puzzle of UFOs and the government hiding alien tech. Whether you believe it or not, the story of J-Rod and Captain Uhouse at Area 51 is a great example of how tales about things we don't fully understand can spark both excitement and doubt. People will keep arguing about it for a long time, each side sticking to their own ideas about what's really going on. Next, we're going to be showing you somebody who claimed to have actually had communications with an alien. The encounters with J-Rod. So there's this wild claim about an alien named J-Rod, a name given by a linguist. Apparently J-Rod could talk like a human, kinda like a parrot that repeats what it hears. Someone who hung out with J-Rod said the alien would try to answer questions, but mostly stuck to giving advice on engineering and science. Enter Dan Burish, who claimed his gig involved working with beings like J-Rod or decoding their messages. It seems like there might have been a covert program using these alien interactions for practical stuff. Instead of being amazed by the alien encounter, it was treated like any regular workday, with the focus on technical chatter rather than exploring what it meant to communicate with beings from another world. For ages, there's been a strange story floating around about J-Rod being held in Area 51 by the US government. Dan Burish and Bill Uhouse claimed J-Rod wasn't just chilling there for show, he was part of a special program. He lived in a secret underground space, tended to by a microbiologist over the years. This place? a top-secret lab that was supposedly a hub for human-alien cooperation. And, yes, Valiant Thor and other tales blur the line between reality and fiction. This whole idea has been kicking around for a while. Stories about aliens and Area 51 have been whispered for decades, especially among UFO enthusiasts and conspiracy theorists. They suggest that since the 1950s, there's been a secret partnership where aliens like J-Rod supposedly shared advanced tech that helped humans leap forward. But let's be real, it sounds like the plot of a sci-fi flick. Even though it seems super far-fetched, some folks think these alleged encounters have been key to tech advances. Critics argue that these stories are just elaborate fantasies spun from secrecy, loneliness, and our love for a good mystery. The juicy details, alien healthcare, hidden rooms, and tech swaps definitely make the legend more intriguing. And, rumor has it, aliens haven't just hung out at secret military bases. They've even had sit-downs with the president at the Pentagon. The tale of Valiant Thor. You know, there's this super wild story out there about an alien called Valiant Thor. Sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, right? Anyway, this story comes from a guy named Frank E. Stranges, who claimed to be some top-secret government dude. So, that part kind of makes it sound more real, even though the rest of the story is pretty out there. According to Stranges, in 1957, a flying saucer landed in Virginia, which is super close to Washington. And then, this alien guy, Valiant Thor, pops out and says he needs to talk to President Eisenhower. And guess what? They actually take him to the Pentagon and introduce him to the president. It's said they chatted about world peace and how aliens could help us with super cool technology. But here's the thing. If this really happened, wouldn't the whole world be different? Where's all this alien tech? And why would the president meet with an alien in secret? It's a fascinating story, but it's also really hard to believe. It's one of those tales that people who love conspiracy theories and UFOs really go for. But without solid proof or other people backing it up, it's tough to say if it's real or just a good story. Sometimes it's easy to get caught up in something that sounds exciting, even if it's probably not true. Eisenhower and the alien advisor. Back in the 1950s, President Eisenhower had a top-secret meeting at the White House that sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. Eisenhower was super worried about nuclear weapons, which were a pretty big deal back then. Enter Valiant Thor, who supposedly came from another world. He was like an extraterrestrial ambassador, offering advice to Eisenhower. Now, of course, skeptics might brush off these stories as Cold War-era paranoia, filled with spy dramas and international intrigue. But the tale of Valiant Thor still fascinates UFO enthusiasts and conspiracy theorists who love the idea of aliens being involved in human affairs. If we entertain the possibility that this story could be true, the implications are pretty mind-blowing. Imagine an alien advising the President of the United States. It would make us question his motives and views on human conflicts and ambitions. It suggests a scenario where some of the biggest decisions might be influenced by a being from another planet with unknown goals. This story doesn't just intrigue us because of its alien angle. It makes us ponder broader questions about power and influence. Who really makes the big decisions that shape our world? Are there hidden forces steering our governments? The tale of Eisenhower and Valiant Thor challenges our understanding of leadership and authority, prompting us to think deeply about who's really in charge. Now let's dive a bit deeper. Imagine the scene, a dimly lit room in the White House, with Eisenhower sitting across from a being not of this earth. The air is thick with tension and curiosity. Valiant Thor, with his otherworldly presence, offers insights that could change the course of history. Eisenhower, a man of great responsibility, listens intently, weighing the advice of this mysterious visitor. The stakes are incredibly high, and the decisions made in that room could have far-reaching consequences. This story also makes us wonder about the nature of power and influence. If an alien could potentially sway the decisions of a world leader, what does that say about the true nature of authority? Are there unseen forces at play, guiding the actions of those in power? The tale of Eisenhower and Valiant Thor invites us to question the very foundations of our understanding of leadership and governance. It's a story that sparks the imagination and challenges us to think beyond the conventional narratives of history. So, whether you're a skeptic or a believer, the story of Valiant Thor and President Eisenhower is one that continues to captivate and intrigue. It's a tale that blurs the lines between reality and fiction, inviting us to explore the possibilities of what might lie beyond our understanding. And who knows, maybe there's more to this story than we'll ever know. If you think that was interesting, this next one will surely knock your socks off. Jet-age breakthroughs and top-secret innovations. During World War II, the US government was on the hunt for cutting-edge technology to get ahead in the conflict. They turned to the Lockheed Aircraft Corporation, pushing them for a new wave of jet fighters to outpace the older propeller planes. Clarence Kelly Johnson, an engineer at Lockheed, got this crucial job. With the pressure of the war on their shoulders, Johnson and his team whipped up the first P-80 Shooting Star jet in just 143 days. Given the complex tech involved, That was pretty impressive. This milestone set the stage for even more advancements in military tech. This jet marked a huge leap for the US military, kicking off a new era where speed and altitude became game changers in air battles. But Johnson didn't stop there. He went on to start the Skunk Works division at Lockheed, a crew dedicated to developing top-secret military tech. During the 1950s and 60s, under Johnson's leadership, Skunk Works earned a reputation for groundbreaking designs and tight-lipped secrecy, creating aircraft that seemed like they belonged in the future. One of their standout creations was the U-2 spy plane, built to fly an astonishing 80,000 feet up, way beyond most enemy defenses. This plane was vital during the Cold War, sneaking around to gather intelligence from high above without being spotted. The U-2's success in completing its missions undetected highlighted its cutting-edge technology and strategic advantage. But while Johnson's work at Skunk Works showed off technological progress, it also mirrored the intense and often harsh race in military development during the war and the Cold War. The push to create more advanced weapons was relentless and mostly hidden from the public, driven purely by the need for military dominance. This relentless drive for progress, crucial for national security, also revealed some of the darker aspects of tech development during conflicts, where the quest for superiority might overlook broader ethical concerns. Unexplained sightings and secretive locations. Johnson, known for his game-changing work in aviation, was equipped with an advanced camera when he encountered something extraordinary. On December 16, 1953, in Agoura, California, he reported seeing a flying object that defied explanation with known technology. This sighting, detailed in his reports and sketches, was officially noted by Project Blue Book, the US government's UFO investigation unit. That day, with a few colleagues, Johnson spotted an aircraft that was nothing like anything science had seen before. At a time when such sightings were often dismissed or ignored, Johnson chose to report what he saw to his superiors. Such a move could have jeopardized his career. You might think that talking about unidentified aircraft would lead to ridicule or a professional setback, but surprisingly, Johnson didn't face backlash. Instead, his boldness seemed to earn him respect. 2 years later, Kelly Johnson found himself involved with the US's most secretive military site, Area 51. He didn't just pick any spot. He chose a secluded corner of the Nevada desert that was strategically ideal and out of sight. Officially, it was for testing new aircraft, which made sense. But there's speculation that Johnson had other reasons, possibly inspired by his own extraordinary experiences. He claimed to have seen an alien spacecraft, which might explain why he picked such a remote area. Was it possible that this site was chosen not just for its isolation, but also as a perfect place to investigate and maybe even replicate alien technology? Speculations and investigations. On March 17, 2018, Giorgio Tsoukalos, the guy famous for his fascination with strange phenomena, got together with Wolf McCarran, a researcher, and Christian, a mining expert, near the elusive Area 51 in Rachel, Nevada. They didn't just come to chat about what goes on in Area 51, but also to dig into what might be hiding just below its secretive surface. So, could Area 51 be more than just a military base? Maybe it's a front for something way more complex, like alien technology? The US government's tight-lipped approach only fuels the speculation and curiosity from the public. This veil of secrecy just makes people more eager to figure out what's really going on there. A lot of folks think the base is working with tech that's light years ahead of what we currently know, maybe even from outer space. This belief is driven by the intense security and the few details that manage to slip out. Every time authorities refuse to give a peek behind the curtain, it just stokes the flames of public intrigue and skepticism about Area 51. Wolf and Christian Sorensis are on a quest to uncover rumors about a network of tunnels beneath Area 51. While the idea of covert military operations and hidden agendas is thrilling, the real question is, how often do these investigations turn up anything groundbreaking? They've checked out the Tenute Mine, one of several old sites in Nevada, which is rumored to be part of a secret expansion of Area 51's activities, tucked away deep underground where no one can see. They spoke with a miner who's been working nearby for over 30 years, about 100 miles north of the infamous base. He also owns a mine in Goldfield, and proudly calls himself a dedicated miner. However, being a mining expert doesn't mean he's clued into top-secret military projects. Above, the skies might hold their own untold stories. When asked about Area 51, the miner reflects on the past, saying, "Area 51? The stuff you see on Google Images, that's all old news, from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Everything's moved underground since then." He suggests that all the critical operations of Area 51 are now happening beneath the surface, away from public and most official eyes. But, as always, solid proof is elusive. When it comes to miners working deep underground, people often wonder where all that removed earth ends up. Some say it's secretly transported to nearby mines and stacked into massive piles, a technique known as heap leaching. For those who aren't familiar, heap leaching is a straightforward but tough method for processing ore. Miners gather the ore and pile it up into heaps that can reach hundreds of feet high. They then stick hoses into these heaps, spaced out every 2 feet. These hoses don't carry water. Instead, they pump a toxic mix of mercury and cyanide. This mix, notorious for its environmental damage, breaks down large rocks into smaller particles. Critics might argue that this is a practical way to deal with excess dirt, but the truth is it comes with significant environmental risks. Imagine a giant mound of earth laced with harmful substances, designed to break down and disappear. This method isn't just a behind-the-scenes mining process. It poses serious threats to the environment. As these chemicals work to shrink the heaps, they leach into the ground and waterways, causing contamination that can harm plants, animals, and even drinking water. Despite these dangers, heap leaching is often promoted as a necessary process for extracting valuable minerals, with environmental damage brushed aside for economic benefit. The effects of such practices are usually ignored until they become too severe to overlook. This method of dealing with Earth affects not just the local area, but also has long-term impacts on the broader environment. The harm to ecosystems and wildlife can be extensive, altering habitats and poisoning water sources, often without sufficient regard for the consequences. It's a bit odd to think the government would use some special gadget inside the Tempu mine just to hide massive amounts of dirt being moved around. Yet, we're left wondering, what's the real reason behind such secretive actions, and how can the government pull off a huge operation like this without local miners catching on? Unearthing the secrets. A modern bribery tactic? The mines in this region are like a gold mine, literally. They're packed with gold, silver, and lead, making them super valuable. It's almost as if any mine would happily take this extra dirt, maybe as a trade-off for keeping quiet about other, possibly shady activities. Could this be a modern twist on bribery? A clever way to stop people from poking around too much and uncovering what's really happening? It seems like there's a game plan here where the truth is always just out of reach, hidden under another layer of dirt or wrapped up in complicated bureaucracy. This isn't just about hiding dirt, it's about what might be buried beneath the surface, both literally and figuratively. Imagine the logistics of such an operation. Moving huge amounts of earth without raising any eyebrows among the local workers sounds like something straight out of a spy movie. Yet, for some secretive operations, it might just be another day at the office. The more dirt they move, the murkier their intentions seem. Can we really believe that all this effort is just about surface materials? Or is there something much more valuable? Something that makes the silence bought with tons of dirt worth all the trouble? The whole scenario plays out like a carefully choreographed performance, with everyone involved playing their part to keep the truth hidden. Take the legend of Area 51, for example. It's not growing because its surface area is expanding. Instead, it's stretching out below ground. If you were running experiments you wanted to keep secret, wouldn't you choose an underground location too? After all, it's easier to keep things hidden where nobody can see them, and it minimizes interference from the outside world. So, what are people saying about this? Connecting America's most guarded sites. People are starting to piece together that the US military might be taking its secrecy game at Area 51 to a whole new level by building downwards instead of outwards. The idea behind this underground expansion seems to be cranking up the stealth factor for their operations. This isn't just a wild theory. There's some solid research backing the notion that beneath the vast, barren desert, there's a sprawling labyrinth of tunnels and secret bases. Originally, these subterranean spaces were crafted during the Cold War to offer protection from potential Soviet missile strikes. The plan was simple, yet clever. Create underground fortresses capable of withstanding any above-ground attack, ensuring that crucial military projects could continue uninterrupted. Fast forward to now, and it looks like the role of these underground facilities has shifted. What once served as a defensive measure has morphed into a strategy for hiding what really goes on at these bases. As operations moved underground, they became less visible and, by extension, less accountable. No longer just about defense, the hidden areas of Area 51 have become epicenters for activities shrouded in secrecy. This shift represents a broader change in how these military sites are perceived, moving from being national protectors to managing covert operations that remain largely off the public radar. This extensive underground setup suggests a far more intricate operation than anything the public can easily see. Everything happening below ground is crafted to stay disconnected from the outside world, raising big questions about transparency and accountability. What started as a defensive measure has evolved into a mechanism for obfuscation. The deeper these operations delve, the fewer questions get asked, cementing Area 51's reputation as a hub where unseen activities are the norm rather than the exception. This transformation from a defensive bunker to a shadowy operations center marks a significant shift in the role of such facilities. They've moved beyond mere defense to become central to operations that remain cloaked in mystery. The idea that Area 51 is just a tiny piece of a massive underground operation has ignited the imaginations of many conspiracy enthusiasts. They speculate that this site is merely one link in a vast, interconnected network of secret facilities, all connected by high-speed underground trains traversing the United States. At the heart of this supposed network is Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado Springs, a known U.S. military stronghold and the headquarters for NORAD. From this central hub, rumors swirl that tunnels stretch to Dulce, New Mexico, a site rumored to host an alien base, before continuing on to Los Alamos, Albuquerque, Roswell, and finally to Area 51 in Nevada. Some even suggest that these locations are all linked by a covert underground transit system straight out of a sci-fi blockbuster. In a twist of extraordinary reality, back in 1967, Captain David Fravor of the U.S. Air Force joined an elite group of pilots chosen to fly the nation's top surveillance aircraft, the SR-71 Blackbird. This aircraft, renowned for its incredible speed and advanced technology, could cross the entire width of the United States in just about an hour. The sheer velocity and sophistication of the SR-71 made it an honor and a thrill to pilot, with only a select few ever given the chance. After his remarkable tenure with the SR-71, Captain Fravor transitioned to an even more enigmatic role at the mysterious Area 51. This move was facilitated by his high-level security clearance, which smoothed his entry into this secretive world. From 1979 to 1985, he was stationed at this remote facility, commuting daily from a covert terminal in Las Vegas via a government-operated service known as Janet Airlines. Area 51 is full of all sorts of wild stories. One of the funniest ones is about a guy named T.D. Barnes, an engineer who worked there. He joked around about all the crazy rumors of aliens and space stuff. He was like, "Even if they are messing with alien tech, I'd probably be the last to know." It's a funny little story that's a total contrast to how serious and secretive the place is. There are tons of these tales about hidden stuff and top-secret projects going on there. You hear about underground bases and super-secret planes. It's hard to say what's real and what's not, because stories get bigger and wilder over time. But they're still super interesting and keep people hooked on the mystery of Area 51. Which brings us to Janet Airlines and Site 4. Janet Airlines is super weird. They cover up the windows so no one can see where they're going. People, like scientists and military folks, hop on the plane in Vegas without knowing where they're ending up. Turns out, they're heading to Area 51, but not just any part of it. They're going to a super-secret place called Site 4, or S4. Not many people know what goes on at Site 4, even if they work at Area 51. Some people go to the regular plane hangars, but others get taken to S4 on a different bus. A guy named Freehoff worked at Area 51 for a while and never figured out what happened at S4. But then he heard about Bob Lazar's stories, and that changed everything. Bob Lazar often talked about his flights to Area 51 on the same Janet 737 and how his experiences matched up with the secretive bus rides to S4. Lazar's detailed accounts of his daily routines and the things he saw there convinced Freehoff that Lazar was being truthful. But as with many extraordinary claims, there are plenty of skeptics. Critics argue that there's no solid evidence to back up Lazar's claims about working at Area 51 or being at S4. They suggest that his tales about dealing with unidentified flying object technologies are likely fabricated and could even be dangerous if they accidentally disclose sensitive information to potential adversaries. On the flip side, Freehoff insists that his former colleagues, who stayed at the base after he left, did see Lazar there. These colleagues didn't just mention seeing Lazar in passing, they explicitly confirmed his presence at the highly secured military facility. So, the big question remains. Was Bob Lazar really involved with unidentified flying object technologies at Area 51, or is it all just an elaborate hoax? What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more intriguing stories. Thanks for watching. While you're still here, click the video on your screen to see more interesting content like this one.